Hi family, hi, back for another Vlogmas video. I am here going to sit down and wrap gifts. Not going to take too long because like I said before in one of my videos, I don't spend a lot on gifts. So this year I'm going to be wrapping, I'm not wrapping too much. I'm wrapping for my son and then my mother because we drew names and I got her name. So I'll be wrapping for her and my son. But I'm not going to show you because they look at the videos. So I'm not showing you that. But what I'm going to do is tell you a story time. I did see that on, I know that's something that's done. That is something that's done on YouTube. So I'm going to do that here today. All right, and what I chose, well, before I do my, what I chose with my story time was I chose to talk about, excuse me, I chose to talk about my, when I had my son. And the reason I chose to talk about that is because I almost lost my life when I had him. And I had him on July 30th, 2012. And like I said, it was an ordeal. So I'll tell you that. Well, like I said, it was prior to that, like when I got pregnant, I only been pregnant once. But when I got pregnant, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I enjoyed being pregnant. It was so much fun. Like, I can remember feeling sick like one time, like real time I can remember feeling sick, like nauseous. But overall, I tell you, my pregnancy was, I had a good pregnancy. I enjoyed it. And I ate. When I tell you I ate during my pregnancy. I mean, I always was heavier, but I did, like prior to my my pregnancy, I had, I'll say probably like, I want to say probably maybe 4 years or 5 years or so prior to my pregnancy, I had lost a lot of weight. And I had lost a lot of weight I was a runner. I became a runner. And I got to go all the way to running a half marathon. And my next goal was to run a marathon, but then I got pregnant. But when I ran the half marathon, I ran without stopping. That's something I want to say. Each time, I always did a lot of like 5Ks, and then I did some 10Ks. But when I did my half marathon, I ran the whole time. When I mean the whole time, I did not stop, not once. And I remember too, when I was like probably like, I don't know, almost there, like maybe another half an hour or so. I remember I was like dying, and there was like, I call it like an angel, because some woman came up, just talked to me the whole time to the finish line. And then after I hit the finish line, I didn't see her no more. So I don't know, but she got me through that last finish line. But yes, so I was very active. And I had lost a lot of weight. I probably, like I had lost probably about 70 or 80 pounds or something like that. Or maybe more. Let me see. No, I had lost more now. I almost lost 100 then at that point. I don't know. But I lost a lot of weight. I went down some sizes too. I went as low as a size 4. And I tell you, and I seen that like for a hot second. but I mainly stayed into like size 8 for a few years. And then, so anyway, so I got pregnant, and then that's when I stopped running. I could have still ran because I've been running for years, so I could have still ran, but I didn't. I stopped running, and I just ate. And when I tell you I ate, I put on 90 pounds while I was pregnant. I had fun. I was eating because I didn't feel sick. I mean, I love being pregnant. But right around, like, my son was supposed to be due like August 12th, mid-August. But prior to that, like I said, I gained 90 pounds, but probably like within the last month, like sometime end of June, or beginning of July, I started to pick up a lot more. And she thought I was just picking up a lot of water weight. I can't remember the name of what she thought it was, but to come to find out was that it got concerning because I couldn't breathe. Like, I would get up and walk, like get up, walk 2 little steps, sit down, and I'll be completely out of breath. And I remember working, it's like, and I worked all the way to the end, but it was just hard. I just felt like I just was out of breath constantly. And it was hard sleeping and stuff. So I kept on going back and forth to the emergency room. They would check me, and they said it was preeclampsia, I think they said, or like staying off your feet, things like that. But to come to find out that after going again, like, I mean, I was walking into the emergency room, I was like out of breath, like even going to the emergency room. And I was telling doctor, because you know your body, and I was like, something ain't right. Something is not right. And so they finally, after maybe like 2 or 3 emergency room checkup, you know, going to the emergency room, they finally did some testing on me. And when they did some testing, they found that I had a lot of fluid around my lungs. And so to come to find out, well, I had a lot of fluid around my lungs. At that point, they didn't know what was wrong with me. And it was just, breathing was getting harder and harder to do. Okay. And I had to pee a lot too. I was peeing a whole lot, but getting up and going to go pee was like a chore. It was awful. So, like I said, my son wasn't supposed to be due till like mid-August. So they were trying to, you know, preserve him a little bit, even though he still was full term, he could come out, but they were trying their best. So what they were trying to do at that point was they were going to induce me. Gave that to me. They wanted me to push. Thank God I had my mom in there to advocate for me, because she was like, no, she's not in no condition to push. So they, after her advocating, and they realizing that, I mean, I could hardly, at this point, my breathing, because the thing was awful. So they decided to put me to sleep, and I got a C-section. Okay. So I got the C-section. My son came out, you know, healthy and good. Thank the Lord. And I came out, and I came in recovery, was in that room or whatever. And, you know, I remember him coming to visit and stuff. And, you know, I was doing okay. But I still felt like I wasn't completely myself, but, because you know your body. But, you know, I was okay. And they were about to discharge me. But then I started to have the breathing issues again. It was like the symptoms that came before started to come up again. And so, again, I had to advocate for myself. And I was still like, you know, I'm not feeling this. And then I believe, that's the thing I don't remember. I guess I should have got some more facts before I made this video. But I don't think I came home. Yeah, I stayed for a little while. And then they sent me home. Like, I stayed for a little while longer, and then they sent my son stayed to like the max where they can keep him. And then he ended up going home. And then I stayed in the hospital like maybe another week, I think. And then they took me to, and then I think I went home. And when I went home, I ended up having the breathing problems got worse. So I ended up going to the emergency room. And then I think I had to advocate again. And say, I'm not feeling right, for them to take more tests and stuff like that. Finally, they took more tests and realized that I was having my fluid in my lungs again. So they kept me and admitted me. And then when they admitted me, let me backtrack. When I had my son and they was put me under, I thought I was going to not, I actually thought I was not going to live. You ever have it like, I'm a Christian and I've been a Christian, I grew up in the church and everything like that. And I thought I was going to see Jesus, and so I was nervous. I was saying my prayers, and everything. And I was very nervous. But thank the Lord, that wasn't my time. So I woke up from that. So like I said, when I went, they sent me home, and then I had to come back to the ER because I was still not being able to breathe. So, so they sent me home, and then I went back to the emergency room, and I had them test me. I was like, I cannot breathe. Like, something's going on. So they did the test or whatever, and they put me in the hospital, and I went into the hospital. And then throughout my time there, they still was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. It was like they were giving me like steroids and different medications and stuff, and that would kind of make me feel, better. It would, the symptoms would subside and things for a little while, and then it would send me home, and I'll be back again to couldn't breathe and feeling like I was going to die. And so having to go back to the emergency room, get admitted again. I think I did that maybe 2 times, 2 or maybe at least 2 times, maybe 3, where I got sent home and then I had to go back. And then when I got into there, when I was in the hospital, there was another time where my breathing went really bad. And they had to put a tube down my throat, and almost died. I mean, I remember my oxygen level had run really, really low, and I thought that was the time I was going to go, and they was able to bring me through, thank the Lord. And I remember just having that breathing tube down my throat and having to be fed through IV for I don't know how long that was. It was a long time, because I know after that my voice was messed up for a while, even when I got discharged and got better. So they were still trying to figure out, but they didn't know. They didn't know what was wrong. It was almost like I was sitting in that hospital just waiting to die, basically, because they could not figure out what was wrong with me. So, and I didn't even think about my son. I mean, I was out of it. I didn't think about him really, not much at all. Because, I was just out of it, And so finally I had my mom advocating for me. So she was advocating for me. And what she was doing was she was actually working full time at that point. She was still working, and she was going to work, and she was you know, getting information from some of her co-workers on other like referrals for doctors, because she was looking like, we need to find a doctor that can help me, because I was just basically, you know, getting worse. And so she found this lung doctor who was supposed to be like really good. When she was real good in her field, and she got her, it was hard because he was trying to transfer me, and you know how with hospitals, you know, they don't like to do that too much. And so that was an ordeal, but I was able to be transferred to another hospital. And at that hospital, kind of find out I didn't have anything. It wasn't my lungs that was doing it. What worked was the hospital that I had, they had a specialty in cardiology. So come to find out, it was actually my heart. But thank the Lord, when I went to that hospital, within that first week that I went to that hospital, they found the problem. They did the work, because at that other hospital, they was trying all kind of stuff. I was getting different testing done. Like I was getting poked, picked, all that kind of stuff, trying to figure out stuff. But like I said, at the new hospital, within that first week, they figured out what it was, and it was congestive heart failure I had. So it was my heart. So they did the procedure for that. And within that 2 week period, within a week period, I was healed. And I remember, like, they still kept me. I remember for a whole week in that hospital just sleeping. I mean, I slept all day, every day in that hospital. I had so much sleep to catch up. And I remember too, like my family, they, I had family, like I had all my family visiting me at the other hospital, you know, coming from work. And everybody worked at that point. Now everybody's pretty much, my parents are retired. But I remember them coming and visiting, people coming in and stuff. But as soon as I got healed, I didn't see nobody. They was all like, I need a break. She's good. I'm out of here. And so I got, you know, I got healed. And then I end up, since being in the bed that whole time, I ended up having one of my legs, I think it was my left leg, was achy. And I was complaining about it. And when I was complaining about it, I remember, again, I had the same situation where, you know, they were just, you know, looking at it like, oh, okay, it's probably just this, or from laying on it or whatever. And I'm like, no, something ain't right. And so they went and did testing on it. And when they did testing on it, they found out that I had a blood clot. So I had to be in a hospital a little bit more. Thank God that I got, you know, was able to have that figured out. And I was able to get, you know, that worked out there. And I had to be on, medication for my heart, and I had to get blood work done every week. During my, also had to be on blood thinners because of my blood clot. So, and I didn't have, I think for a whole, maybe 2 years, I had to do all that testing, regular testing and blood work and medication. I think for a good 2 years. And then after that, thank the Lord, I didn't have to, I got off all medications I was off. And I didn't have to do any more follow-ups. So, you know, so thank the Lord for that. I got through that ordeal. But another thing too, it's like the Lord, looking back at it, he set me up. You know how like when you're pregnant during your last trimester, they say that you have that, like you're nesting, where, you know, like you get where you in a mood where you want to clean and prepare for the baby. Well, I was on that like double time during my last time. And I prepared. I mean, I was paying bills ahead of time. But I remember just paying stuff ahead of time and taking care of a lot of stuff like that. And looking back at it, you know, it was the Lord preparing me because, you know, he knew it was coming. And during that whole time when I was in the hospital, none of my family had to really deal with my bills, or, you know, nothing went behind because I had already prepared for that. And now looking back, I realized, you know, the Lord, you know, he knew what was going to happen and had me, you know, prepare for all that. So that was a blessing. And then, you know, my son's good. He's good. He didn't have anything. Help me do is having a near-death experience. You know, it helps you in your walk because you realize, you know, when you know, complain about things or get nervous about things, a lot of times, you know, you get reminded of, you know, like, of, you know, how the Lord, when you're like, you know, kind of doubting things or you're losing faith, you just kind of remember, you know, what the Lord did for you and how he brought you through during that difficult time. So that always helps me. That's a huge moment in my life that helps me along the way, for sure. Because I always remember that it really helps my faith and gives me strength. So, and I wanted to share that story because I know that there's some other, you know, that happens. Because I know I did do research for them. Like I was in one of the research things that they had. Because they were researching, I guess at that time, you know, or probably still now, that they had, you know, a lot of mothers who were having that congestive heart failure and, you know, sometimes not making it. And then, you know, if they had another kid, they would have that same problem. And he did say, like, I can have kids, but it wasn't, you know, it's not like it's not recommended. Like he said, you know, you can have kids, but I wouldn't recommend it because he had, you know, they were doing research on mothers who actually had other kids and if the same thing happened, you know what I mean? And they didn't want to risk my life. Now that I had a son, I didn't want to risk, you know, my life by trying to have another baby and then, you know, my son not have his mother, my new kid not have their mother. So, you know, I didn't want to risk that. And it worked out good because I did always have wanted a lot of kids. I grew up always wanting to, you know, like I was in my church, I was like the youth group. I always had kids, always was babysitting kids, just loved kids, always wanted to be a mother. And the Lord blessed me because my son was a handful and still can be a handful. And I didn't even think twice about having another kid because my son, you know, he helped me to forget about that. So that worked out good. But yeah. So I think that's everything that I wanted to say about that. All right, family. Well, I'm going to continue to wrap some of my gifts, and that ends my Vlogmas video today. And I'll see you tomorrow for another Vlogmas. Bye.